Hey everyone, my name is Carlos Walsh. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and also thank you for watching. As you know, my channel is about reporting abuse in Kentucky, and not only in Kentucky, but also in the United States. I am a troubled teen industry survivor, as mentioned before, and with me today is Nathan Shakib. Nathan
What
Shakib
up?
was at Pilgrims Ministry of Reconciliation, where he is also a troubled teen industry survivor. And Nathan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right, my name is Nathan. I'm currently 18 years old. Um, I when I was younger, I was about age 10 when I started seeing a new therapist. I had been through many because my parents were like, "Oh, this one doesn't work, that one doesn't work." And then I was introduced to reactive attachment disorder, which I had never heard of previously. And then I was basically like fed that all my anger, my problems fed from my adoption,
Mhm.
which I personally never thought about it like that. Like I was adopted when I was a baby. Those two people are mom and dad, no matter what you say.
Yeah.
Um, and then so basically I kept sliding down that hill, and then he talked about a school in Dundee, Kentucky, where he sends his clients.
And who is this he? Who is this he?
His name is Mark Cohen.
Okay.
He worked at Attachment Trauma Services, I believe in Kirkland, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he told my parents about it and that it was like great and it like shapes them up and it's like, oh, fun this. I know the guy. He was a Marine. He's a doctor. All this and that. And my parents were like, okay, like why would this guy lead us to something horrible?
Mm-hmm.
And so, things led to another, and I ended up there. And then next thing you know, I'm pulling up in the car, and there's the house is what
Mm-hmm.
we all referred it to as. It was a gravel road, and before you saw any of the rest of the property, there was just kind of like a nicer, like cute little house.
Yeah.
And then that's when uh Kelly and his wife walked out, like all smiles, like, hey, welcome. Um, and they took us inside and we sat down on the couch and we were kind of just like talking, introducing. And then there was a point in time where my parents stepped into a room with him like alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not really sure what went on in there. Uh, but yeah, anyways. And then I remember the first time I walked in the building,
Yeah.
um, the schoolroom. That was probably one of the most deadbeat environments I've ever experienced. And it's you just you just know that these kids here are like not another one. Like
Mm-hmm.
this place is awful.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to think. I was told that the only punishments there was standing on the wall and what they called a set, which was your age, and you did like like for me it was like 10 push-ups, 10 jumping jacks, 10 squats. And that was what was mentioned to my parents as well, only.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that was not true. And I found that out in about the first 10 minutes of me being there. I witnessed the head teacher, Jim Blake, um, press one of the younger students. He's probably 9 or 10, same age as me, like 4 foot, like 5, takes him by his neck and shoves him against the wall and starts screaming at him. And I was like, you know, I'm I'm like giggling because like I'm really uncomfortable. And I was like, wait a second,
Yeah.
that did not just happen. And then from that point forward, it was kind of just like, oh wow, let me just like not say anything, stay out of trouble, keep my head down low.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and I remember when you first got there, you weren't really the talkative type. You were really quiet and shy. The rest of us were kind of like, we'd lived there for a while. So just to see
Yeah.
sometimes it was kind of we forgot that you existed sometimes. And then like if people call your name Nathan Shakib, it's like, oh yeah, we forgot we have Nathan Shakib. You were
Hey,
very quiet.
I mean, I kind of felt like they were like, yeah, he's not really doing anything. So
Mm-hmm.
towards the end, I'm not really sure. It was, you never know when you're going home. You can be
Mm-hmm.
told you're never not. You can be told that, oh, because of this, you're not going to be able to talk to your parents, or
Mm-hmm.
that your parents don't even want you. And that they told that to the head guy, Kelly,
Mm-hmm.
and he would feed us things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
What was the and I know it's really hard for you to talk about this, and I thank you for coming on to the video and
no,
on
I
the
got this,
channel.
my guy. It
Um, what
I'm good.
was one of the what was one of the most horrifying moments you witnessed while at Pilgrim's Rest, if not the most
I
horrifying?
So I had probably been there for close to a year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember this, but I don't know if they continued this, but they moved a bunch of the younger kids into the room where we watched movies
Yeah,
for school,
I
and
remember.
I was moved in there as well. And Joshua Vanderkoy was in charge of that area and in charge of us.
Mm-hmm.
One day, um, there's another student. He was 7 at the time. Um, was misbehaving, I guess. And he was put in the push-up position.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 7. He's not capable of holding a push-up position for probably longer than like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's all of a sudden he gets kicked by
Mm-hmm.
Joshua. Like literally like a kick. Like I want to like hurt this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it multiple times, like over, and it was to the point where he was begging for him to stop. And at one point he actually like asked for his mom. He's like, I like want my mom, like please stop hurting me.
Yeah.
That was probably the number one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I It's just evil, ruthless, unbelievable things.
Yeah. I completely understand. And to have seen that at such a young age, and for that to be ingrained into your head for the rest of your life, it's something you have to live with now on.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to live with either. Uh, Another thing we're going to talk about. Let's see here
Oh,
about the police report. And I remember you reading that or you told me you read that police report.
yeah.
And what we're going to talk about is the audio file on there that contains a recording of a student named Brooke Sanford. And we obviously, both of us listened to it, and we obviously knew like it sounded like he was lying. The police officer who was interrogating him, it's pretty much said to him, "Look, you're lying," and stuff. And the sexual abuse was uh, it was allegated against Jonathan Vanderkoy. And um, even though we both listened to it and we both know that Brooke Sanford was lying, could there be any truth to that? Do you think there is any truth of any sexual abuse that went on with staff members and
um
students?
from Well, here's my thing. I don't think that a, someone would go to that far of an extent to lie.
Hmm.
Really, there definitely was a goal there, in my opinion,
Yeah.
and it may not be exactly what he said. It may be something completely different, but he's definitely not saying something for no reason.
Hmm.
And if the people thought that he was lying, I feel like he'd been shut down a lot earlier and they wouldn't have listened. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So reading this police report was in 2012, is in the winter of
Right.
2012. And what can you what similarities did you find? You would see the police report, and then it would have certain names listed of who was interrogated. And what did you find interesting, similar, interesting, or what pointed out to you that, okay, these people were interrogated and for some reason they weren't believed? You would see, a name and then the report, and then underneath unsubstantiated, a name, a
Yes.
report, underneath unsubstantiated. And what did you find interesting of all the people? What did you find similar of all the people who were interrogated?
Um, at the time, they seemed to be between 7 and 14.
Mhm.
And honestly, that's a tough age just by itself.
Yeah.
And it's, we were sent there because we were seen as bad kids. We were
Mhm.
seen as, we need correction so bad, we need to come here.
Mhm.
Um, and just lost my track of thought.
You were seen. We were bad kids, so we needed to be sent
Oh
there.
yes.
Oh, similarities.
And so we had the reputation of being deceiving,
Mhm.
liars, like thieves, mean. And that was definitely taken into account when you talk to a younger child
Mhm.
that, wait, this is a place for kids with problems. These kids are troubled, they're liars.
Mhm.
Like, I'm obviously going to go in here with like a little bit of suspicion.
Yeah.
And it's, the things that were said were the numbers of the punishments assigned.
Yeah.
They are ridiculous. They are absolutely ludicrous. And if I was anyone, I would say that that child was lying immediately,
Mhm.
because 100 push-ups for a 7-year-old is inhumane.
Mhm.
Holding a push-up position for hours is not humane.
Mhm.
Bear crawling on gravel and all over the place till your hands bleed, that's not. And it's, they would tell us up to 100
Mhm.
of these things. And it's, I personally, the most that I got was 100 down ups.
Mhm.
And um, another room leader was like in charge of it, and he actually like let me go a little
Yeah.
earlier because it's impossible. I was
Mhm.
10 years old.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's, the numbers definitely will jump out and be like, wow, that's ridiculous. They're
Mhm.
probably not telling the truth.
Yeah.
And it's, we were also scared to tell the truth. Literally, the truth was the last thing we wanted to say.
Because there would be repercussions if
Oh yeah,
if
we
Vanderquay
were
ever found
scared
out.
that,
Yeah.
if I'm gonna be honest, I get a goosebumps right now, even just imagining what would happen if someone said something.
Mhm.
I remember when a police officer came when two students ran away, and he
Yeah.
came into all the rooms and he said, does anyone here feel uncomfortable or unsafe?
Mhm.
Please come and talk to me. Right behind him was Jim Blake, one of the staff members. He's a very intimidating man.
Yeah.
He's very intimidating, and he knows it.
Mhm.
And there's a certain look that he'll give you, like the evil eye. I feel like
Mhm.
you might know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But it's the evil eye where he's gonna do something rash.
Mhm.
And we're sitting in our bunks and we see him standing right behind him giving us that evil eye.
Yeah.
If we had any thought of saying anything, it was crushed right then and there.
Mhm.
It's, even if we went alone to those places to talk to them, he'd still see that we talked to them, and we'd still be there at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
it was a lose situation either way.
yeah, and I remember there was a time. This was actually after you left. There were multiple CPS involvements after you left. At one point in time, CPS came. And they talked to us. And then after CPS left, Kelly Vanderkoy walked in and he said, he said, and I quote, "So I was speaking with CPS workers. They're tired of your lying. They're tired of your deceiving. They don't believe anything you say. You guys need to understand that you guys are here until you do good and you go home." And doing good to him was kind of like snitching on people, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So he said, I'm sorry, doing right. So doing good was
Oh,
staying out of
oh yeah.
trouble. Yeah, this was his definition. And I quote, "Doing good is staying out of trouble. Doing right is making sure other people aren't doing bad around you." Meaning he wanted you to snitch on people. And everybody snitched on, everybody snitched on everybody
Because you
because
were
that's the only way to
rewarded.
survive.
Because
Exactly.
you were rewarded.
Mm-hmm. And it later affected you down the road because nowadays you don't know who to trust.
Yes.
Since we've been out of boarding school, we can trust each other because of what we've gone through. But
We
nowadays you go out there and you try to make friends with people. It's hard to give someone your full trust because you've been stabbed in the back so many times.
and it's we were preached not to trust each other by him
Mm-hmm.
as well. We were
Mm-hmm.
preached to not like each other. When I went home, he pulled me aside and he said, "Listen, these kids here are not happy for you. They do not want to be your friends. They do not support you. So you
Mm-hmm.
should not tell anyone that you're going home and you should leave quietly."
Yeah.
This was my birthday, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess that's like the best birthday present I've ever gotten in my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, uh, feeds horrible information. He's created like a hierarchy
Yeah.
type deal with the line order. It
Yeah.
was
The line order. Why don't you go ahead and explain that? Because it's for those of you who don't know, pretty much the better you do. So he's got a system where you have line order. So everyone's ranked from like 1 to the amount of students. Like let's say there's 30 students. You're ranked from 1 as like being the number 1 guy, pretty much in charge of everything, down to 30, who you're doing the worst out of all 30 students. But there's more of a catch to it. Why don't you go ahead and explain that, Nathan?
so the thing is with line order is that it predicts basically how you live, how you
Mhm.
eat, and what you get. It's they 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 would call like maybe first 15 for this
Mhm.
like really cool thing, and they leave out the other 15,
Mhm.
or they'd it was just a very unfair, obviously unfair advantage.
Yeah.
um and it was actually decided by room leaders, had an influence as well. They actually
Mhm.
all lined us up every once in a while to change it and to make any edits that they pleased.
Yeah.
Most of the time the older people stayed at the top. It was trust, ranked by trust
Mhm.
is, I believe, how they put it. And younger kids at the bottom. um and it's everyone strives to be number one no matter what. It's the ideal.
Yeah.
It's you
And
want to be that top dog.
I remember when we were doing line order, pretty much just thinking to myself how ruthless it is because everyone stepped on everybody because you were surviving there.
Yes.
And during meal times is when it affected you the worst. Is every day you had to be reminded what number of in that line order you were,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much essentially what the line order was is number 1. If you're the number 1 guy, you get pretty much all the food, all the good stuff, and then you get second helpings or third helpings. And then if you're the back guy, if they didn't have enough for everyone to give second helpings, then the back guy didn't get any. So there was never an equally proportioned amount of food given to everyone except
And
for on the first round.
it was until it was done, until
Mm,
they said so.
yeah. Yeah. And a lot of more times than not, your breakfasts, they would be like 3 little boiled eggs, and that's all you
Yep.
got for breakfast. Or you'd have like two bagels, or maybe even just one bagel. It could be like a regular bagel, or it could be a cinnamon bagel. Uh, So like you weren't given a lot, like on a lot of meals, and you would go to school hungry or you would go to bed hungry. um I remember soup. I don't know if you remember that,
Oh,
but soup was
like
made
vegetable soup after church.
all the time. Soup was made all the time. The canned goods were cheap, they were easy to
Hmm.
get, and there usually wasn't enough for everyone to have second
Hmm.
and third helpings. And you'd still, you got growing kids, you got growing guys, growing boys trying to grow up, their bodies constantly, growing and changing, and you weren't given enough food, you know, and it ultimately it messes with your dietary system. It messes with you psychologically, going to bed
Oh
hungry.
yeah.
And and it wouldn't be like that all the time. Sometimes they would make a lot, and sometimes they'd make chicken, mac and cheese, and like occasionally they'll
Yes.
have a good meal. But 9 times out of 10, it was mainly soup or oatmeal or just whatever was cheap and easy to make.
Yep.
So, and there was
Um.
never enough to go around. Uh,
Oh yeah.
to make have everyone full. So
And another point I may bring up is that a lot of the kids do have problems.
mhm,
Like we all had our own problems, whether it be reactive attachment disorder or whatever, or we have our own personal trauma, you
mhm,
know? Um, and we were all put there when we were in crisis.
mhm,
You put a bunch of kids from ages 7 to 17 in a small place. They're all in crisis. They all have their own issues. They
mhm,
have histories of fighting or you know, being homicidal, whatever.
mhm.
And he puts them all in a school and basically tries to turn them all on each other, is basically how it is.
Yeah,
And I can't trust anyone
yeah.
no matter what. Um, um, Funny thing, you know Eric Erickson's 8 stages of growth and development?
I do not.
No. Okay, so it kind of paints the picture of like like growing up psychologically.
Mhm.
And so we were ages 7 plus. So
Yeah.
that falls under the stage 4 of industry versus inferiority.
Mhm.
And it's when you start to compare yourselves to others and develop feelings of pride and oh my gosh, I did this.
Mhm.
Or it's you kind of just develop more of yourself and what you what's going on around you,
Yeah.
you know? And then stage 5, which is 12 to 18, is identity versus confusion,
Yeah.
which is it's the questions of who am I, what do I want to be, how do I fit, what's happening,
Yeah.
why is this happening, you know? And stage 5 is probably one of the most crucial ones,
Mhm.
and especially when we were put into a situation where all of these things were thrown out the window and we were told the complete opposite to a level of cruelty.
Uh-huh.
um I mean, it's just leave kids traumatized for life, devastated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. It definitely changes you forever. Whether you're there for 6 months to 6 years, it'll change you forever. Um, I wanted to also bring up, and this is going to be one of our last points, unless you have something else to bring up, but um, Vanderkoy runs Pilgrims Rest Ministry, and he runs it with total cruelty, but he's also very smart in the capacity of keeping the truth from supporting churches, um, the parents, and also even from some of his own family. Um, I think. Why don't you go ahead and what's your opinion on just tell me. I remember we would go to church and we'd go to the same church every Sunday, And we got to know a lot of the church members there. They
Mhm.
were always very nice to us.
Oh yeah.
But how would you say Van Roy, he deceived these people into thinking that we were in a protective environment? How did he get away with keeping the truth from these church members and deceiving them to the point that they would give money to this school to help keep it running? Pretty much, how did he get away with deceiving them?
I believe that it all starts with what his goal is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great goal. It's a beautiful one to help troubled children become better. And like down there through Christ is great. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's a very honorable thing if I heard that,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But obviously that's not what it was.
Yeah.
And he would always start with a speech, and he'd go through about how like all these kids come from different places around the country. We have kids from Guatemala, El
Mm-hmm.
Salvador, and you just like go into like kind of like a 5 minute guilt trip,
Mm-hmm.
but like very like maybe like sugar on top.
Yeah.
He definitely knew how to get his way,
Mm-hmm.
and there also it was only his way or
Yeah.
physical pain.
Mm-hmm.
So he restricted us from talking to most people,
Yeah.
and most of the time it was they were talking to us and we were responding, like
Mm-hmm.
nodding our heads saying yes, like oh that's really cool, and that's about it.
Like a robot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's we all like would get suits and ties. We
Mm-hmm.
walk all in like formation and like sit whatever, and it looks professional.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Vanderkoy is pretty decorated, I will be honest.
Mm-hmm.
He's a doctor for um for starts. He's been in the Marines. He had he retired from there. Those are respectable things. And if I was a person, I would not doubt it.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel that he was a very well disciplined person.
Mm-hmm.
Um and if you talk to him, you kind of have a high expectation.
Yeah.
You're like, oh wow, this guy's great. First
Mm-hmm.
off, because he wants to help little kids. And then he starts asking for like funds and stuff, and then like all of a sudden a bowl is being passed around and people are just putting cash in it. And honestly, I feel like I've seen him just put it in his coat pocket just like it was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was we there was a period in time where we went to a new church all the time.
Yeah. I
Same
remember that
thing
time.
every time, same speech, same money pool.
Mm-hmm.
It I was very young at the time. I didn't see it as that, but
Mm-hmm.
as I became more aware of reality and how things really work.
Yeah.
And that is one of the lowest things I feel that someone could do,
Yeah.
especially one that claims to be doing God's word and that he's following God's calling.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who thinks that what he's doing is God's work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, it's definitely a touchy subject, because I grew up under Christianity, uh, pretty
Me
much
as well.
under him. I knew God, the Bible, I knew Jesus Christ and everything, but he uses that to hide behind, to hide his physical
Yes.
abuse, his verbal abuse, his mental abuse, and it's a sad thing. It's a very sad thing.
And
Um,
it
Also,
you
one
can't
other
really
thing. Go ahead.
I said it's a very hard topic in like legal systems when you get into religious organizations as well.
Exactly, because they see the religion like as in the right.
You could say it's anything.
Yeah. But, I think that's one of the things we want to stay off of is like, listen, we're not going after what you believe, because we're not going after what you believe. We're going after
No.
what you did. You committed
Yes.
crimes and you need to face the full extent of the law.
You
Um,
shamelessly ruined hundreds and hundreds of children's lives.
mhm. Another thing I want to hit on, let's see here.
Yes.
Um, let's see. Oh man, I had the subject in my head, but how does you told me earlier on the phone that you talked to your parents about this. And unfortunately, what you're about to tell me, it's very true for 99% of all the children who come forward and say, hey, I was abused. This thing happened. I saw people abused. Why don't you go ahead and explain your situation, and then I'll cover it, kind of cover the whole gist of it.
Yes. So I got home. I had maybe been home for a couple weeks. And
Mhm.
that whole time I've been contemplating if I should like maybe like if those things were like actually like that bad, or like if I should bring them up. And it's like I knew that they were like horrible things,
Mhm.
but I just like was scared because of the things that I was taught and would happen to me if I spoke up about how I felt at
Yeah.
Pilgrim's Rest.
Mhm.
I I already had the reputation of a pathological liar to my parents,
Yeah.
and they saw me as just saying things because I was angry.
Mhm. So what happened when you've told them, hey, this happened? What can you tell me?
They they kind of just were like, uh-huh, and they like brushed it off kind of.
Mhm.
Um my sister and brother were not on board with that immediately either. Um Definitely probably one of the worst feelings that anyone could feel
Mhm.
is even if you're telling the truth, no one believes you. And
Mhm.
it's that only leaves your mind to think, what am I doing wrong,
Mhm.
etc. um yeah, so I stayed persistent on it, actually,
Mhm.
mostly towards my mom.
Yeah.
My mom's pretty cool, and I actually told her about the Ezra
It's
situation.
okay. It's okay. It
Okay.
happens.
And she thought that was ridiculous at first,
Mhm.
but then I'd bring it up to her every once in a while, and over time she did say that she believed me.
Yeah.
And the reason that she said she believed me is because I told the same thing every single time, basically word for word.
Yeah.
Nothing changed, nothing went off all loosey goosey.
Mhm.
And this is actually when we scheduled a meeting with Mark.
Mhm.
And I went and met with him, and we discussed these things with him.
Mhm.
I feel that I might have been one of the first people to ever confront him about it.
Yeah. And what would you say about that?
Well, he immediately denied it. He was like, "What are you talking about?"
Mhm.
Like, I had no idea. And what's funny is because I asked him before I went, "Are you ever going to visit there?" And he told me this, in quote, "I don't go there because my clients will attack me."
Mhm.
That is what he said. And red flag if I've ever seen one.
Yeah.
And it's, kids don't want to attack people for no reason. No one is born a bad anything. It's, everything is influenced and taught. It's, if you swing at your animal, like your
Mhm.
dog, they don't flinch if they haven't been hit before.
Yeah.
It's, they don't have the concept that that inflicts pain.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. um, for those of you who don't know, Mark Cohen is a therapist up in up in the Seattle area, Washington. Um, and he, I think he's retired right now. I could be wrong, but he personally had a hand sending, I would say, over 30 children, 30 to 45 children to Pilgrims Rest ministry. And there was at one point in time in Pilgrims Rest where over half of the school was actually from Washington and was either referred to by Mark or one of Mark's fellow therapists, Rebecca or Mia. Yeah. Yeah. Including
Ooh,
Shakib,
I have
Nathan.
something crazy.
Go ahead.
One person in my room was on the soccer team with my brother
Mm-hmm.
before
Yeah.
he
And
left.
you were talking to
And
me about that, and it's kind of crazy how you guys come from that same pool of, you
and
know.
it's another person I knew carpooled to basketball camp with us when we were little.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually I saw two of the people. Um, I saw Jesse
Mm-hmm.
before he left.
Yeah.
Mark informed me that he had gone there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met Sasha,
Yeah.
which funny enough, Sasha actually Mark kind of screwed himself on this one. Sorry
Mm-hmm.
to switch gears like that, but he agreed to have me come in for a short time to chat with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to see, like, I get to talk to Sasha too, because he got out too.
Yeah.
And he was not expecting us to start talking about how they like beat us and like abused us. And it was, yeah.
Yeah.
After that, obviously, I never seen him. I've never heard of him, never heard of his whereabouts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Shakib, or Nathan. I'm sorry, we had a lot of
Yeah.
Nathans in the school, so we got used to calling you
No,
Shakib.
yeah, we did.
But thank you, Nathan, for being on my channel. Thank you for telling your story.
Yeah.
For those of guys who don't know, that police report that we were talking about is available through Kentucky State Police. Just request um, Kelly Vanderkoy abuse allegations 2012 on the Kentucky State Police website. It's only $4 for shipping, and they'll give
Hey,
you a hard
remember to
drive.
provide an address.
Provide an address, and it'll give you a hard drive. It's a 120 PDF page, and it includes a recording of a student who says he was sexually abused. It's big. I encourage all of you to go check it out. Thank you for coming to my channel and watching. Like, share, subscribe. We want to get the news out as much as possible. Also, big news is next year, a group of us students will be going back and we will have a meeting with some legislators, representatives, and some lawyers and attorneys for the state of Kentucky. And we will be moving to get a bill passed in Kentucky to not regulate what they teach, but make sure that the environment in which children are placed, if they're being housed over 72 hours, is safe. We want to make sure this bill gets passed. A lot of us students are going over there. We're going to raise awareness. We'll be in the Capitol, and also we'll be returning to the school to protest against it, and also to share what it was like there. And we will have a video at that time. We are scheduling this meeting in late June, early July, and we hope to see you guys there. Come down to the Capitol. For all of you people who live in Kentucky, go down to the Capitol in Frankfort. We'll be there. We will ask for your support. Pray like mad. We would really appreciate your support. All right. God bless.
One
Have a
last
great
thing.
day. Well, go ahead.
Something that I feel that we should make very clear is that we are not looking for revenge. We are looking for, abuse and horrible things to stop and to stop happening, and for people to stop being fed into that system where they get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Not because obviously there's anger towards them, but that is not the end goal. We want is justice, not, like death penalty.
Mhm.
or money either.
Yeah. And
We want to see change is what.
yeah, and that's a lot of that's and like I was telling people, that kind of hurts the thing. We could do lawsuits and we could ask, or we could sue for money, but no, we don't want money. We want justice. We want change, and we ultimately want to see it not just in Kentucky, but in all 50 states,
Yeah.
to where children are protected and they do have basic human rights.
Yeah.
So God bless. Thank you guys all for coming to
Yes.
the web show or the YouTube channel. Like, share, subscribe, share to everyone. We want more support, and we
Everything he just
also
said.
everything I said. And God bless. All right.
All right.